We just took our 2022 Toyota Camry in for its annual service as per the manufacturer's instructions, and our local dealership absolutely screwed us. I want to share you our personal experience, what happened, how we fixed the problem, and how you can prevent getting hosed yourself. Let's get into it now.
Life's too short to drive boring cars.
Just over 2 years ago, we bought this brand new 2022 Toyota Camry. This is the SE with the all-wheel drive. We thought it was a great car, and we still do. We have the updates, we have the push-button start, and some other great features. We love this car. It's been reliable, it has all-wheel drive, it has enough options to make it interesting, and really it's good on fuel, and everything about it really meets the intent. But the dealership service department left us wondering, why did we even come back here? We had a dealer reach out to us, that dealer specifically. Their general manager said, look, hey, I noticed you're bringing your car in for service. Would you be interested in doing a trade? Would you possibly look at trading it in? We'll do a free assessment, and for that, we'll even pay for your annual maintenance. Right, they're going to pay for our annual service. Great. Normally it only costs us about $125, $130 to get an oil change. They do some general checks. They usually pull the wheels off, do a tire rotation, as well as check the brakes, check the floor mats, because that's been a problem, known of course for the sudden acceleration. So it's generally a pretty comprehensive check, and we've been pretty happy with that for the first couple of years. This year, in fact, though, something changed. Let's walk this down and explain exactly how this all happened. Now, first of all, I always like to give the engine a quick look over after it's had some servicing. Of course, this here looks very dirty, and normally when you do an oil change, it's what is it to give it a quick wipe. Now, I know it's not part of the scope, but either the attention to detail or just the care and attention just aren't there. Was the oil in fact changed? I'm not here to say whether it was or whether it wasn't. I can't dispute that point, but it really does make you question whether the oil was changed, and I'll explain why I am starting to feel that way. Now, of course, the oil change naturally is one part of that service. Checking over some of the fluids is one part of that service, air filters, and checking over everything under the hood is generally part of that service. Another part of the service is what's under here. Now, normally they check the floor mats. This is a matching floor mat. This one here is Camry. It's well strapped down. It doesn't impede the throttle itself, the accelerator, because that sudden acceleration was a problem, and they incorporated that into some of their maintenance checks. So everything looks fine here. Now, naturally, the other thing that they say that they do, and we've had every year since then, was tire rotation checks. Of course, right here, you notice, yeah, we've got a set of aftermarket wheels, but they should always be changed and checked. Never hurts to give these a quick check yourself, even for that matter. But these tires should be rotated, because your camber is different and your wear is different from front to back and left to right sometimes. And so by swapping them out and doing that rotation, what it does is ensures that you're moving the tires around and they're all getting an even wear, and you're going to get the maximum life out of your tires and probably the best driving experience, especially if you have an alignment issue or some otherwise. They didn't do that, and they even admitted they did not do a rotation check, because even they had commented that it didn't need it. Why didn't it need it? You do it as part of the maintenance package. It was, well, the brakes, okay? Look at these wheels. These are Steelies. These are the wheels we've been running for winter. So they didn't change the wheels. They clearly couldn't check the brakes. How do you check the brakes or the brake wear lining underneath there? How do you check that if you don't take the wheels off? So they didn't put two and two together, but they said the brakes had 10 millimeters on the front and 8 millimeters on the back. But that seemed really peculiar, because when we actually picked the car up, we didn't even get a proper invoice. I mean, when you go in there to pay the bill for your car and your servicing, you're paying the money for a service, and they should give you a receipt, a proper printed out receipt that's part of their program. Well, we didn't get one this time, and it made us really scratch our head. So we reached out to the dealer a day later, because it was actually my daughter that took the car in, and says, you need to get that paperwork. You need to get it in writing. If you don't have it in writing, it didn't happen. And that was another big issue and a huge red flag. And for those of you out there getting your vehicle serviced particularly at a dealership, you always have to have it in writing. Always. As well, if they're bringing up issues, for example, they're saying, well, there's a part worn out, there's something not functioning properly, it's always best advised to ask for the replacement part. So if they say, you know what, you have an alternator that's not putting out, we recommend putting a new alternator. Now you pay $780 for that new alternator installed. Ask for the old one back, but do it on the front end. Don't do it after, because sometimes they'll throw it in the scrap bin and they say they can't dig it up or they don't know what they did with it. Always ask prior to giving them approval. of replacing that part. If they're telling you that your alternator is bad or some other component is bad, you always have to give them the blessing. If they go ahead and replace it, that's a huge red flag. Say, no, I'm not paying for that. And all those, also not only that, I want you to put the original part back in. But if you do give them the go ahead and they do actually replace a part, make sure at that time that you give them very explicit instructions that you want to see the old part, because there's way too many scams these days where a lot of dealers and these little corner shops and these little backyard alley shops generally just do that, and they aren't even replacing the parts. And this is an instance where they actually did not do some of the work that they claim to do. So was that oil in fact changed? Well, I don't know. Let's explain where I'm coming from with that theory. They told us we had brake wear of 10 millimeter and 8 millimeter. So we decided to do a little sleuthing ourselves. We pulled up the paperwork from last year. Guess what? They actually did the checks, because the last time they did it, we had the original wheels on, which were a spoke wheel, and whether they checked it by pulling the wheels off or not, last year they told us that the brake wear was 8 millimeters and 7 millimeters. So how does that work that all of a sudden this year our brakes have more wear left than they did last year? Brakes wear out. That's what they do. They're friction. They wear down with time. So how did we gain 2 millimeters on the front and 1 millimeter in the back? It's baffling to me. That's an extremely huge red flag. And that's what happened with us this year. If you were me, and I'm sure a lot of you are in this very similar predicament, how would you react? Do you personally feel that you actually got a justified service? You pay your $130, $140, and they tell us they did these 25 items. Would you believe them after you caught them in a lie in a couple of items? Clearly, it's a huge issue for me. The trust is a big, big problem. It's a big problem in the dealership space. So a lot of you are saying, well, why don't you do your own services? Why don't you do your own oil changes? Yeah, and we likely will. We'll do it somewhere else, likely independent. And these dealers, like the repeat customers, like to keep bringing you back, because when they do an oil change and say a car is 6 or 7 or 8 years old, other things creep in, right? There might be a leaky line, oil line, or might be a coolant pipe that's weeping. There might be something else, maybe a battery that's not putting out good voltage. So there's opportunities for these dealers to continue making more money off servicing your vehicle. So they want to keep you coming back. So then a lot of you are wondering, well, what did you do next? They did not give us that paperwork. And as I said, it took me 3 phone calls, my daughter 3 calls. We reached out to the dealer time and time again, emailing, phone calling. I want that paperwork. Where is it? The second day, the third day, the fourth day, even by the end of the week, they told us our system is down. That's why we'll have to just give you some scribble notes. And that's literally what they did. They didn't give us a proper invoice, and they said their service programming was down and not functioning, and they were having to catch up with customers this way. I don't know how true that is or may not be. That's irrelevant. The point is, it's a business. You pay for the service. The expectation is the deliverable is both the service and the paperwork for proof. Because anybody in business knows if you don't have it in writing, it's never happened. And naturally, my daughter absolutely ended up writing a big, tough email. And absolutely, I'm so proud of her for doing that, because a lot of people will bend over, grab their ankles like this, and just move on. And you know what, just say, look, I learned something, I'll go somewhere else. But no, it's more than that. We have to hold some of these people accountable. If they're ripping us off, that's not good. That's not acceptable. What level did it happen? We don't know. We're not here to say it was a specific person, a tech, a service writer, management. I don't know. I don't care. I'm simply stating that you have to go into these dealerships when you're having your vehicle serviced with your eyes wide open. I mean, clearly with a situation like this, just reaffirms to me, and probably to a lot of you, you'll really have to ask the question. So how do you prevent this situation? How do you avoid this predicament? It's so imperative that you absolutely take care of your car to the T. If you don't look after the voltages, the batteries have to be topped up. Your brakes have to be proper, because a lot of the ABS systems now are very reliant, especially when you talk about torque vectoring. There's so many critical components, and wear and tear does take a toll, not just on reliability and performance, but even in some cases safety. So we have to continue servicing these expensive, highly complex vehicles. But there's a few things you want to do. You want to make sure that if you're going to be servicing your vehicle, you have to make sure you're on top of it. And you have to be very proactive with these dealers to make sure that you're not going to get hosed. Some of the things you have to do: follow the book to the T. In many cases, I would even suggest things like oil services you would do even more frequently. Do them between the resetting of the oil service tender, because the oil tenders and the oil reminders often are usually tied to the book. And I truly believe the books are tied more to the service plans that the dealers are selling you. So they extend them out. So oil changes aren't done as frequently as they should, because when they're selling a maintenance program to you, they're going to do less oil changes. So they'll tell you, you know what, hey, you only need to do it every 10,000 kilometers. It's good. That's what Toyota said. No, they do that because when you're in purchasing that new car, they're trying to sell you on these maintenance plans. You buy it for say $2,000, $3,000, and they say, oh, for 5 years, free maintenance, free oil change, free. But all they do is extend out that oil service intervals. Now, some people say, well, you know, some of this new oil, synthetics, it's much better. You don't need to change it regularly. I still strongly advise 5,000 kilometers, 3,000 miles to 5,000 miles, in that range at the absolute top. 5,000 miles is as far as I would even consider going, even on a good quality late model vehicle. So you want to cut that down, but everything else should be done by the maintenance program and the maintenance service books. You also have to know that you can trust your dealer. Get to learn them. Maybe you know one of the mechanics personally. Definitely learn to understand and meet that service writer and, you know, see what makes them tick and try to form a bit of a relationship with them. You know, more than just getting in there and being abrupt and aggressive. Maybe try to learn who they are and possibly just be chum. As they say, you catch more bees with honey than vinegar. So after we finally heard back from the manager, they said, look, we're going to take this vehicle back next week. Let's just go through it with a journeyman and we'll make sure that we do all the service proper and true. Now, at least the manager is taking some ownership and accountability and now is taking care of the matter. You know what? That's a fortunate thing, and I'm glad they're making it right and trying to at least do it properly. But that still begs the question, you know, how did we get here? How often does this actually happen? And is this a real more widespread chronic issue that a lot of customers are dealing with? Now, there's a lot of great reputable dealers and service people that all want to do the right thing. Charge you for a service. They want to bring you in and treat you as respectfully as possible. You know, with the integrity and the trust that they build up, they want to maintain that 100%. And it sounds like this manager has all the right intentions. I'm just simply saying that where this fell apart, I don't know. The trust does get eroded over time when more of these type incidents happen. And unfortunately, I know we're not the only ones that get it like this. So I just wanted to bring that to attention. On top of some of the other tips, of course, making friendships with some of the service people, specifically even more so the mechanic if you can, but likely at least the service part of the business, you know, the service writers, management ultimately. But a big thing that you want to also think about is you never give permission to replacing parts unless you know it, and you also want to see the old part prior to actually taking your car away. Always get everything in writing. Always get that paperwork on your way out. And that was a little bit of a misstep on our part, but they said, here, we'll just write this down for now and we'll send you a copy later. Well, it wasn't until we were extremely persistent and started to get a little bit aggressive to actually get these parts and some of this paperwork. If I didn't even think about it, if we didn't consider chasing this down, it makes us wonder if we'd ever get this paperwork. So ultimately, you've got to do your checks, do your due diligence, ask a lot of questions, and certainly be on top of it. Get it in writing. And I hope that helps each and every one. If you're also getting screwed or you're thinking you may not be able to trust your dealer, go somewhere else. This is a big country. This is a big network of service shops and even the small independent shops. Some are good, some aren't either. So whether it's a dealer or a small backyard ma and pa shop, whatever it is, when you find a good mechanic, they're worth their weight in gold. For me, I take some of my cars in for service. I usually just do it at the dealership while it's under the warranty period. Once the warranty period's gone, a lot of my cars end up getting maintained either by myself or a small independent that I have trust and faith that I know they will do the right job. Well, I hope that helps each and every one of you, and maybe you too can avoid getting hosed when you take your car in for your next service interval. And with all of that said, with all of this new technology in cars, it's no surprise why a lot of these engines are literally imploding. There's a very specific reason. Hope to see each and every one of you on the next one. We'll catch you all real soon. Bye-bye.